America's watching ABC.
Ahead on Eyewitness News, John Grundhofer's car is found, but his alleged kidnapper remains at large. Jack Grundhofer was kidnapped yesterday. The bomb squad was called in to make sure the car was safe before towing the silver Mercedes to the police impound lot.
But the suspect in the Grundhofer kidnapping is still at large tonight. Police at this hour are searching Grundhofer's car for clues.
We all have to work every day. We wake up, get ready, and travel to work. Maybe it starts in the day or night, but we all need to make money to survive. John Grundhofer also had to go to work on November 19, 1990, on a cold Minnesota day. Being a business executive for a bank is a lot of work, and John was heading to work this fall morning. Once he arrived at his office parking garage at 8:10 a.m., instead of walking to work and starting his day, he ended up staring at the end of a barrel. Hey! John realized at this moment he was being kidnapped. Grundhofer was the chairman and president of the first banking system, recruited from Wells Fargo, another high bank in the United States. He was tasked in leading the second largest bank in Minnesota when it was facing its worst time. A high-ranking employee known for cutting 2,000 jobs in order to save money for the first bank. His appeal wasn't the best at the time. I mean, cutting any jobs isn't, right? The man pointing the gun told him his name was Carl. Carl looked about 250 pounds, 6'2", and he looked like he was in his 40s or 50s, white. He demanded that John get in the back of his car, but something different happened. John fought back. Maybe he had an extra shot of espresso, but he decided today was not the day, and he decided to rush Carl. A struggle ensued between John and Carl, and unfortunately, John was on the losing end. The gunman, after winning, forced John into his own car, a Mercedes, and for extra measures, he handcuffed dynamite onto his arm. John then began to drive with the gun pointed at his head, and the dynamite strapped to his arm. At 8:45 a.m., John and Carl officially crossed the state lines and entered Wisconsin, the neighboring state. After driving to a remote area, Carl then told John he wanted a ransom of $3 million. John then called the secretary and updated her on his situation. In a few calls, the employees at the bank started to prepare the ransom money. After this, John sees that Carl is visibly upset. Carl, with his gun on him, then approached John and removed the dynamite. He makes John go down a hill and ties him up. After tying him up, he forces him into a sleeping bag and seals his mouth shut with tape. After that, Carl just walks away. Seeing that Carl is gone, John takes his opportunity and tries to escape. He somehow wigged his way out of the restraints and the sleeping bag and was able to escape in 20 minutes. His car is in the area where he originally parked it, so he walked all the way to a farmhouse. Once he reached the farmhouse, he called his office and told them he escaped. He told them that he was safe and the kidnapper disappeared. The entire time, this event started at 8:15 a.m. and ended at 10:25. This is how long the kidnapping took. The money collected for the ransom was never paid to Carl, and John, upon returning from his escape, said, "First of all, I'm okay. I have no idea why this took place this morning. Right now, I got a bank to run, and that's what I intend to do."
This is Eyewitness News at 10.
The FBI tonight has located Jack Grundhofer's car used yesterday in the kidnapping of the First Bank CEO, and here's how they found it.
Minneapolis Police and Fire.
Hello. Are you still looking for the Mercedes-Benz that belongs to the guy who was kidnapped yesterday?
Do you know where it is?
Well, you tell me if this is the right license number. 817EUL.
Indeed, it's the car, and police are dispatched to the scene. Good evening, I'm Mark Sapelsa.
And I'm Angela Astor, but the suspect in the Grundhofer kidnapping is still at large tonight. Police at this hour are searching Grundhofer's car for clues.
Tom Garrison has details.
The phone call to police came from this Metropolitan Mount Sinai Hospital parking garage. The 911 caller said the silver Mercedes caught his eye because of an open window in the rain and the contents inside.
What I'll do is I better stay with the car until somebody gets here because it's open and there's a lot of stuff inside, like a briefcase and stuff, and I'll stay with the car to make sure nobody rips anything off.
Because there had been mention of explosives when First Bank Chairman Jack Grundhofer was kidnapped yesterday, the bomb squad was called in to make sure the car was safe before towing the silver Mercedes to the police impound lot. The FBI can't explain how the car could be spotted in southern Minnesota yesterday, but is back in the cities now, though they are taking a careful look at the mileage. Their big concern is the whereabouts of the alleged kidnapper.
Well, obviously we want to help identify him, and again, we ask people to think about people they know that meet the description. Did that person show up to work today?
We could see what appeared to be a videotape and the Mercedes car manual inside. We're also told investigators found a brown package, but the FBI says nothing out of the ordinary has been recovered.
Nothing of any great evidentiary value that's obvious to us, like the parking ticket and things like that. There was nothing like that in there.
Having found nothing out of the ordinary in their initial search, authorities say when the Mercedes being held here drives, a more painstaking search will be conducted, looking for fingerprints and any other clues Grundhofer's vehicle might yield. In Minneapolis, Tom Garrison, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
And the FBI stopped searching the Mercedes for tonight, but will resume tomorrow morning. And another added note, authorities did recover Grundhofer's briefcase from the car and have secured that because of important documents inside.
So Carl, the kidnapper, did all this work and without no reward? Why was John Grundhofer kidnapped? This is exactly what the FBI was trying to figure out. See, when a crime occurs across state borders, the crime gets investigated by the FBI. During the FBI investigation, a lot of information was found on how the kidnapping was done. First, a random person found a note in the parking garage where the initial kidnapping happened, and the scuffle ensued. And it looked like it belonged to Carl, because it looked like a cheat sheet on how to do the kidnapping, detailing all the steps for his kidnapping and what he wanted to order John to do. It was actually the main reason why he left John alone in Wisconsin. As the employee was preparing his ransom money, Carl decided to check his cheat sheet for references for his next step, his next move. But something happened. He didn't have it. It wasn't in any of his pockets. It wasn't in the car. It wasn't on his person. And that's when he became upset. And he took John's car and left, presumably to retrieve his notes. Also, during the scuffle, there was a witness, the same person who might have found the note. His name is Jeff Remusen. And Jeff saw John and Carl fighting. He thought Carl was mugging John at first. But as they were scuffling and as Jeff got near, they both got up and started acting like they knew each other, like they were acquaintances. Carl then told Jeff to leave, and Jeff, fearing for his life, after seeing Carl and John fighting, left for the elevator as fast as possible. John's car, the car that was used for the kidnapping, was seen in the parking garage at 10 p.m. that same day. The Mercedes was spotted earlier, before 10 p.m. On the same day, actually, at noon, by a police officer in Sherburne, Minnesota. The next day, the authorities found the car in the parking garage about 3 blocks from the scene of the abduction. Since John was a high-profile executive and this kidnapping happened across state lines, the kidnapping hit national news. At this point, with all the information we know, It shows that Carl really wasn't a professional kidnapper at all. I mean, he needed a cheat sheet with instructions on how to kidnap. The dynamite being strapped onto John's arm as he was driving is also something during the scuffle. At the very beginning, John pointed the gun at Jack Grundhofer behind his back, and Jack still had the opportunity to fight back, which also shows he wasn't professional or an expert in kidnapping. The FBI did narrow the results to one person, a man named John Henderson. He's part of a grand jury investigation, but was never charged. At one point, they brought him up to a lineup, and John did point him out as the kidnapper. They did it again with Jeff Remison, the witness who originally saw the scuffle, but he didn't point him out as the kidnapper. They also conducted a handwriting test to compare John's handwriting to the cheat sheet they found in the garage, and it didn't match. In the end, no one's been charged, and this is still currently unsolved.
Jack worked his way through college. He soon excelled in his chosen profession, banking. But his career, his family, and his life were instantly threatened when he was kidnapped at gunpoint, bound face down in a sleeping bag, and left to die in the woods.
I thought a number of times he was going to kill me. Got me in the car, strapped a bomb on my arm with a 3/6 of dynamite, and asked me to drive to Wisconsin. I got an early dose of the fact that there is only a certain amount of time left here.
There are some theories on who would have kidnapped him. Jack was a target in the first banking system as he was an executive. Remember, he was recruited to help the first banking system as they were in deep financial trouble. And in order to do this, not only did he slash jobs, but he also restricted the bank's ability to lend money, adding new conditions for their customers in their credit line. Now, these restrictions caused a lot of tension because there's long-standing customers who've always used first banking system and use their credit line and depend on it. And these new restrictions made it difficult to the point where some of these long-term customers were not able to renew their credit line and ultimately suffered the consequences of that. These changes ultimately did help the first banking system to recover, but for John, it also created a lot of potential enemies. Rejected customers who originally used the credit line to borrow money, angry employees who laid off. There's a lot of people with motives to kidnap him or potentially hurt him. Other theories floating around are that he staged the kidnapping himself. I believe this is due to Carl's unprofessionalism, as he didn't look prepared to carry the kidnapping and he had a literal cheat sheet. The fact that he didn't follow through with the ransom and left without any reason, and that John was able to escape relatively easy, also contributes to this theory. His response also, after being kidnapped, contributed to the theory, as he was very calm, nonchalant about it, even after the kidnap happened 2 hours ago. After that response, I don't see it staged, especially as there's no benefit for Carl. At the end, no money was given to either Jack Grundhofer or Carl. It seems like a loss to even attempt to do this. And he might have gotten away with the crime, but all the publicity and attention and a federal investigation by the FBI is a lot of attention to do a kidnapping and not follow through with the benefits of either money or something else. In the end, we may never know why Carl did what he did. John didn't get a chance to know. He continued in life. And he passed away in California, January 24th, 2021. He continued to manage the first banking system, which eventually became U.S. Bank Corp, one of the biggest banking corporations in the United States. And when he retired, his brother, Jerry Grundhofer, took over and later served as the vice chairman for the Palm Spring International Film Festival. John Jack Grundhofer was survived by his daughter, wife, and grandchildren. And though He may never know why he got kidnapped in the first place. It didn't stop him from achieving and living life to its fullest.
Well, one of our valley's most prominent philanthropists, Jack Grundhofer, has died of natural causes. The Indian Wells resident was the former chairman of U.S. Bancorp. He was a generous supporter of many nonprofit organizations, including the Living Desert, Eisenhower Health, the Palm Springs Art Museum, the Waring, the Jocelyn Center, the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center, and United Way of the Desert, just to name a few. He also served as a vice chairman for the Palm Springs International Film Festival. He is survived by his loving wife, Patty. Jack Grundhofer was 82 years old, and on a personal note, we will